Ben Davison, the coach and trainer from the UK, is on one. And he'll tell anyone who will listen that one of his charges out of his stable is formidable enough to be considered and paired with Mike Tyson. Yeah, we're talking about that young heavyweight hopeful, Moses Itauma, someone who is going to have his first step-up fight August 16th when he faces Dillian White. But appearing on Talk Sports Boxing, Davison decided to come out and share his sentiments regarding Itauma, what he brings to the sport, what he's learned from observation in the gym, and where he places him. And that's amongst someone that we're familiar with, Iron Mike Tyson. Pump the brakes. Let's hear what he had to say on Talk Sport Boxing, and I'll give my rebuttal. There are times when people get excited over something fresh and new. But if you've been around the block, you learn to pump the brakes. And I understand that Ben Davison, trainer out of the UK, gets a little bit excited, sometimes to the degree that he advises his charges to roll the dice instead of exercising caution. And could he be rolling the dice on 20-year-old Moses Itauma, comparing him to Mike Tyson? Now, Mike Tyson was definitely a phenom. During his career, we hadn't seen a young, strong heavyweight with the fierce presence that he brought, an intimidating modern-day Sonny Liston, but skilled, and he had an elusiveness about himself that give you a dynamic impression I've watched Itauma, and I see just another big 6'2.5" heavyweight in a land of giants where a lot of the heavyweights are 6'4" and taller now. So the fact that he hasn't had a chance to have a real step up yet, which is coming in August, Ben Davison went on TalkSport Boxing and gave his take on things. But let's take a listen to what was being discussed about Moses Itauma.
Which is Moses Itauma. Dillian Whyte, fight's been signed with a really good undercard. This fight, Ben, right fight for him at the right time? Moses?
I think it's a good name in terms of it being at the right time. I don't think the timing is too much of a factor. I don't think Moses needs to catch anybody at a certain point in their career or anything like that.
Why is that?
Because I think he's good enough. I think he's plenty good enough. I think he's a generational talent, and I think it's going to take time for everybody to see that. But I think everybody can see that he has the potential.
Can you tell that, even though he's not been in against the levels that determine those outcomes? Because he's been in against various levels, and obviously lots made of the performance against Dempsey McKean, lots made of the performance against Marius Wack. I don't know about how impressed I was against the Balogun performance, because to me it looked like a guy that wasn't anywhere near his level. But as a trainer, can you already make that sort of claim and go, forget about it, this is a generational talent, even though he hasn't been in against the levels?
Yeah, there's still things to be done to, you still have to go out there and do the things to be that, and to be able to claim that that is what you are. But obviously I get a chance to see him a lot more in the gym than everybody else does, and I know that there isn't much, if ever, been a heavyweight that has the capabilities that he's got. Now, like I say, you still have to go out there and do the job.
Sure.
But those are the reasons why I don't feel like it's a case of him needing to catch anybody at the right time.
Because
Now, my thoughts on what Davison just shared. He said that from his assessment, being able to see him in the gym, though he hasn't done certain things in live action, that he can make the assessment that Moses is a generational talent. I don't buy that at all, because Moses is a guy who gives me the impression that he's accustomed to having his way. Even in this young age, being a fighter who's a southpaw, they're now listing him as 6'4.5". Just a few months ago, they were listing him as 6'2.5". So maybe he's grown a couple of inches. But with a record of 12-0 and 10 KOs, it's nice to get excited about such a young guy. But there's so much to learn. And coupled with whom he's been in the ring with, how can you make the assessment? There's something that Davison revealed about the sparring in the gym with other noted fighters and the lack thereof. But when you talk about fighters like Mike Balogun, Dempsey McKean, Marius Wack, Ilja Mazinifsev, Dan Garber, Michael Bolos, all fighters who have crumbled under Itauma in a round or two. In August, he's going to face Dillian Whyte, who's now 37 years of age and last fought in December of 2024 against Ebenezer Tete. Now, Tete was the type of opponent that you could consider someone who could give Moses the much desired rounds that Davidson claims that they're seeking. But see, it is a business, isn't it? They say about boxing. So the 37-year-old White took the fight. His record presently is 31-3 with 21 KOs. And he's been in with fighters of note. Jermaine Franklin, Tyson Fury, Alexander Povetkin twice, Derek Chisora, Joseph Parker, Robert Helenius, Lucas Brown, Anthony Joshua, David Allen. If they really wanted to test Moses, they could have gone the route that Johnny Fisher recently went against Dave Allen. Because Dave Allen has been the only UK personality, fighter, person involved in the sport of boxing, presently still fighting, who said that they should pump the brakes on this praise that they're heaping upon Itauma. You see, Allen just defeated Fisher after 2 bouts. One where he should have got the decision the first go around after dropping Fisher for the first time in his career. And the second fight where he stopped Fisher pretty much in the same round that he dropped him in the first fight. You see, the UK hopefuls, they get stardust in their eyes when someone fresh comes along and someone who's prominent presently that they don't necessarily throw their allegiance and support behind, aka Daniel Dubois. They get beside themselves and they miss boxes to check upon a fighter's preparation, growth, development. They did this with Anthony Joshua. Joshua was at one time growing into a solid fighter who had an opportunity to claim a title early in his career. I do believe Joshua was about 24 years old when he won the title against Prince Charles Martin. 24, 25, 24. Joshua is now 36 years old. But I had said after achieving that, they should have brought in people to help him become better. Instead, they sat on the title and they looked to make money and market him instead of improving the brand. They're so looking ahead with Moses Itauma, they were actually entertaining the thought of he could be world champion before he's 21 years of age. And to equate him with Mike Tyson, let's listen to a little bit more of this before I go more into it.
The questions reverberate about him that keep on getting thrown, and we're going to listen to various people talk about him in positive and perhaps slightly balanced perspective in a second. But the one question that gets asked a lot is, when he gets one on the chin, then we'll start to understand whether this explosive fighter that's walking through everybody else is able to take it when he's put on him.
Yeah.
You see that in training already?
Yeah, of course. I've seen him get hit in the gym and sneezed it off, not a problem. Now, in boxing, especially in the heavyweight division, you know, if you get hit right, it's game over. We saw that with Fabio and Justice Hooley not too long ago. So,
and we saw that with Joshua and Daniel Dubois.
You should be relying on, certainly not. But it isn't something that I'm concerned about.
You've got great heavyweights in the gym right now, and they're all at different stages of their career. You've got AJ that's in the twilight of his career. You've got Fabio Wardley that's now knocking on the door as the interim champion, and you've got Moses that is the prospect coming through and the highly talented next heavyweight generational great. right? So do they spar with each other at all? Do they work with each other?
I don't get them full out sparring too often, if ever, to be honest. But also have Alloys, who's a
Alloys as well, yeah.
He mixes in as well. But they work with each other. I try to create a team culture where they want to see each other do well. And I think you saw that when Fabio won Moses' reaction. You know, that's really warming for me, because that's the type of environment you want to have. Because when it's all said and done, as you all know, you'll look back on those times. You want those times to be remembered in as good times. And part of that, to make that, is the company that you keep. So, yeah, that's something that's really important to me. But they're all capable of hurting each other as well. And I've got to batter this down. I don't want to create that type of environment. So yes, they'll tech spar with each other and try to bring each other along.
I know you don't.
Now, he just admitted that these guys are not even sparring with one another in the gym. But he's making an assessment that Moses is a generational talent based on what? You see, Mike Tyson was knocking out grown men when he was 12, 14 years old. Itauma can do the same against low status and D quality fighters over in the UK. There are guys in the US right now in gyms who could tune him up. But Davison just admitted, with having Joshua and Wardley in the gym, that they haven't worked together. There are multiple reasons why that would be. But at the same time, those two guys, Joshua and Wardley, have acute vulnerabilities. And I see Itauma's vulnerabilities. And no one's talking about it. But they're praising this guy. Talking about generational talent and potentially great, based on what? I just read a resume of names that he has faced. Dillian White is going to be his first step up. Now, Dillian is 37. He's had a title shot at Tyson Fury when Fury was holding the WBC title. He's been in there with Joshua and had a chance to rematch Joshua, but that fell through. But Chisora and Parker, Helenius, you know, these guys that he's been in there with, they have given him experience. And he could give Itauma experience. But will Itauma be able to grasp? Let me say this about where he is. If he's able to blow Dillian out within 3 rounds or less, we will have learned nothing, except for the fact that Dillian, who has really squandered opportunity and a career with foolishness, it's not a marked achievement. Now, if White is able to lure him into later rounds and then succumb to Itauma or even defeat him, then we learn more about the generational talent. But Simon Jordan is a guy who needles these men sometimes, and they don't like it. But he raises questions that should be asked, but then he has to pull back at other times because then they don't want to grant interviews. They don't want to be in the presence of someone who's holding the rule of accountability. Spencer Oliver is a fan. He is a cheerleader, a former fighter himself who had to end his career early. But he shouldn't be like a mascot for these guys. His professional experience should be able to offer some sort of an equilibrium about where fighters are, and he refuses to do it. And I have no understanding why. Glazing someone just because they're from your country, but not being open to the realities of who they are as fighters, their shortcomings. Because certain aspects of shortcomings will make certain that these guys never achieve what potential had before them. Let's keep it moving.
I think that it's about timing of the fight, who is right to fight at the right time. But would it be right to suggest that Dillian Whyte's scalp is probably the biggest scalp that he's going to take, or have taken recently, or taken full stop in his career?
Yeah, I think that goes without saying. I think so, yeah.
Well, interesting. I mean, obviously there's a lot of hype around Moses, and I am, of course, like most of us, very impressed with him. We had Carl Frampton on the show last week talking about him, comparing him to those people. Let's have a listen to what Carl said.
Now, they're getting ready to replay something that Carl Frampton said about Itauma. And when I sat there listening to Frampton, who is not the most cerebral guy when it comes to talking about boxing, the X's and O's, and making assessment on talent and ability. But you have to hear this for yourself.
I said this, and I've had idiots online criticise me, but I mean, he's probably similar to Tyson in terms of his stature. He's a little bit bigger than Tyson. Mike Tyson we're talking about here, but he's a better mover than Mike Tyson, like a bit more fluid. Tyson had big deliberate head movements, and he moved very, big massive movements which use energy. Moses is, I think he's a smart fighter. He's got maybe the fastest hands in heavyweight boxing since Mike Tyson. I think personally he moves better than him. But obviously as he goes up through the levels, we'll see how good he is. I genuinely think the kid's a superstar in the making.
Now see, this is what they keep talking about fighters over there. Two things: star potential, superstardom, and punching power. The fact that this man decided to say that he feels that Moses moves better than Mike Tyson. If you have had an assessment of Mike Tyson in his early career, we're talking about before he became a heavyweight champion. But when he was going through the division, knocking out older men and veteran fighters and eventually former champions and world contenders. Tyson, as I opened with this, I said he was dynamic. He had dexterity, he had elusiveness, quickness, foot speed. Many people rule out that. Foot speed. Tyson could close the gap on his opponents very quickly. And his punching power, though he was a strong puncher, very sharp at punching, but where his effectiveness came in was he used to throw shots in combination. And that put fighters on their heels. And when you would try to fire back, you couldn't hit him clean, and he's right on top of you again with the perfect counters that the numerical system of Cus D'Amato's peekaboo defense and offense taught. Itauma is lumbering. He throws shots, he winds up, and he's accustomed to people moving out of his way. But for a fighter who has a different temperament and understands that I got to get close to him, I got to see what he's made of, I'm going to get on the inside, test his will and his ability to take a shot clean. I want to test his conditioning. See, going downhill, it's always fun. But uphill, the incline seems to sap energy and it saps the psyche. I believe that he's going to reach a certain level over there in the UK and tap out at that level. Because when they get behind certain fighters, the growth stops. This is something very consistent. One of the ones who didn't buy into that was Lennox Lewis, because Lennox sought out being the best, meaning that you have to uproot yourself from the grounds of familiarity and go into the unknown and have people who can teach you about the unknown and put a light switch where there was darkness. Ben Davison is not that guy. And the mere fact that he has admitted that Itauma has yet to face the type of challenges that could put him in the position to prove being generational talent means that there's something still missing here. If Dillian White could be trusted to be a motivated fighter and to test another fighter's will and temperament and abilities, this would be considered a very dangerous fight for Itauma. But White is not that person. He himself tapped out at a certain point in his career and never went beyond that. He has a lot in common with others who have come and gone. More from Simon Jordan.
There's probably no greater hype to attach to a heavyweight prospect than comparing him to the Mike Tyson that came out and blasted everybody from 1985 up to 1990. Is he that?
Is he what?
Is he that good?
I think he is, yeah.
Is it a fair comparison? Okay, let me repackage it. Is it a fair
and I know
comparison?
that you're going to get hammered on the comments by this because that historically happens. But Moses Itauma right now, when you look at him and the modern era of heavyweight boxing and boxers and his talent and where he's going to go to, it's not if he wins a world title, it's when he wins a world title. You hear the gym stories, we see the delivery in the ring as well. You know, his timing, his foot control, you know, space control, southpaw as well, speed of hand, the way they put shots together, the creativity. He ticks every box. I know the one question you asked, Simon, is does he take a shot though? Can he take a shot? This man to my left will know that because he sees it on a daily basis.
Do you like that comparison? When you hear Tyson, it's an easy, lazy throwaway, isn't it? People just say it's like Mike Tyson. Do you like that Tyson comparison? Do you think it's unnecessary, or you know, in terms of counterproductive to what you want to achieve with him?
I think it's great for building hype. Tyson's one of the most still spoke about ever heavyweights that's ever been. So I think it's great in that sense. I think probably the biggest comparison I would say is how Mike Tyson loved the game. Would always study fighters of the past, etc. Moses has that same love for it.
Does he?
Yeah, like we'll send him his sparring at 2 a.m. He'll be texting us clips like, is this more what you want?
He's a student.
Yeah, he absolutely loves it. And that's that, along with his maturity at his age.
Very composed, isn't he? Very composed. Yeah.
That is what is allowing him to achieve what he's achieving at such a young age.
Yeah.
Because there's lots.
You see, they are so hopeful, trying to push this kid, and I'll call him a kid because he's younger than my children, or my child. I only have one, but he's younger, and he is a fighter who is on an upswing, a learning curve, in a division where if you can punch, if you have size, and you have will and ability, you can have success. But when you're challenged by someone who can equate that, level that out, and come back at you with something, therein lies the whole situation of being able to assess where you truly are. And in a gym with the veterans of Wardley, Joshua, it's not happening. Personally, I think that to go ahead and continue to push this young man along an area of where he truly isn't there yet, it's something that I really don't like to see, because fighters, when they get comfortable, when you've told them things and given them something to believe in, but when they find out that maybe you weren't being genuine, they are therefore placed in a position that they got to figure it out. And under the lights is not the time to figure it out. Mike Tyson rolled along until he made changes in his personal life and career that stunted where he was headed. Itauma can still learn more, but they need to be honest with this young man. He is so far away from Tyson, or Tyson-like. There's a huge possibility he may not even be where the young Riddick Bowe was. And Riddick Bowe, as a young heavyweight, was pretty damn good. So, in assessing the hype, I think that they truly need to pump the brakes here, because he's got plenty of time ahead of him. What's the rush? You want to rush him to stardom so that he may fall and have a harder fat fall and crash? Or you want him to take his time and elevate where each step is profound and a benchmark? Do not put the cart before the horse. When this fight takes place, there's going to be a full card and an assessment of talent that many people can't wait to see. Listen, coming up August 16th, headlining is Moses Itauma and Dillian White. But also on that card, we get Nick Ball, featherweight champion, against Sam Goodman. We'll get Philippe Hergovic against David Adelaye. We'll also see Anthony Kakachi and Raymond Ford. That's a dynamite card, people. Yeah. And I expect there to be sparks. But if Dillian White decided to show up, it could be far greater than going in you could imagine. But what do you think? This is Stormy B-Man. Shout out to the mighty LDBC and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let me know what your thoughts are about Moses Itauma. And is he presently a hype job? Or is he someone that's working to get the job done? Leave comments and let's discuss further. Peace to everyone out there, and everyone please remain safe.